Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Genetic Genius Podcast. I'm so excited to have my guest today, Dr. Aumatma. We're going to be talking all about fertility. So if you are wanting to know about fertility, this is the podcast for you. And so before we jump into learning more about what you do, your joys in life, and how you help your patients, I would first like to, learn a little bit more about what inspired you to be where you are today so our listeners can get to know you a little bit.
Yes. So I am trained as a naturopathic doctor and also board certified in naturopathic endocrinology. And I've done a bunch of trainings and certifications for everything from like hormones to mind body medicine, just like personal interests and like how do we support more people. So
Right.
that's a little background. But the reason I got into fertility is actually has its own story. And I was already practicing as a naturopathic doctor. It had been 5 years in practice, mostly working with women and hormones and things like that, until I was married. And my husband at the time had started talking about having children. And I don't know why it didn't occur to me prior to that. My whole life I had been like, yeah, kids maybe one day, but probably not. It's not a big deal. Like that kind of thing. And I had put it off for so long that when he started talking about it, I was like, oh, actually, yes, I do want children, but not with you. And that led me down this rabbit hole of starting to do research and feeling like, oh my gosh, if I married this person and don't want to have children, what is going on? But it really led me down the path of realizing that there's just so many myths that we are sharing as medical providers with our clients, and maybe not so much as naturopathic doctors, but definitely the media and definitely the message that women get through their primary cares, their OBGYNs, their reproductive endocrinologists, which is so much about not believing and not trusting in our own bodies. And I just realized that the research doesn't actually support this. There's actually plenty of data that says otherwise. So why are we sharing these myths again and again and perpetuating the myth? So I just started sharing what I was finding in my research, just with like friends and people that were around, anybody that would listen. And suddenly like people were calling me up and like, hey, can you help me with my fertility? And I was like, oh my gosh, no, that wasn't the plan. I did not plan to get into fertility. But it really just became a calling. People just kept calling me. And I was like, at some point I said to the universe, if this is really what I'm meant to do, give me a sign. And that week 3 people called me. The first 2 I was like, no, can't really help you, sorry, goodbye. And the third one I was like, dang it, 3 is definitely a sign. And she was like, Friday afternoon. And I basically was like, listen, I've never done this before, I have no idea what I'm doing, I have lots of theories and like stacks of research papers that I've went through, but this is not clinical data, it's just all theory. And if you decide to work with me, it's not going to be free. And she was like, wow, you are the weirdest doctor I've ever met. I was like, yes. So I want you to really like tune into your intuition. And if this is a fit for you, call me on Monday. And first thing Monday morning, she was ringing my phone like, you are the exact person that I need to work with. And she became my first client. She went on to have 2 babies.
Yay.
After recurrent pregnancy loss and so many issues with all kinds of things. So she was my first and just helping them through that experience. And then more people just kept coming. And I was like, oh, this is actually pretty amazing to be able to influence the health, not just of the parents that are coming to see me, but the future child and the next generation. I just think it's so powerful. So that is what has kept me doing this work for another 10 years and beyond.
I love that. You can really hear the inspiration behind what you do, which is so powerful in our work, especially as naturopathic doctors. And we have that inspiration. Our patients feel it. They like know that we're behind them because we're like inspired to help them every moment of the day. And it's sometimes the challenging cases that really are so rewarding too. Like, yes.
Yep. You're like, oh, you haven't been successful anywhere else, great, come to me.
Right. Yeah, the detectives in us are shine
Yeah.
through.
Yes, definitely.
So let's start talking about the concept of holistic fertility, because I think that's how you encompass your practice. And I'd love for you to explain what that is and how that kind of works with how you see patients.
Yeah, that's a great question. So for me, holistic is really on several levels, right? Holistic in one person's body incorporates all of the different signals and compounds that are communicating with each other. The reproductive system doesn't stand in a silo. We know that thyroid hormones are attaching to ovaries, and we know that cortisol is influencing the release of hormones, and gut health is impacting the microbiome of the vagina. There's just so many interweavings and interconnections within our bodies. So that's the first level, is right off the bat, we're looking at more than just the reproductive system and more than just the reproductive hormones when supporting someone on their fertility journey. But then beyond that, it's body, mind, spirit.
Mm-hmm.
And then beyond that, it's really like the holistic approach to a couple. So unless a woman is having a child on her own, which we've totally supported, but if you're in a partnership, then that partner is fully showing up, being present, and working on his stuff regardless of whether his sperm are good or not, because we know that the emotional state of the father is impacting the health of the baby. The mental and spiritual state of both parents is attracting which child spirit is going to come to them. So really working on all of the different components and not forgetting that the man is not just a sperm donor and the woman is just not like the womb to carry the child, but there's so much more to it. And really coming from that perspective of we want to make sure that all of it is encompassed in things that we're considering, things that we're working on. And when I first started with this, I totally did not have that perspective. Granted, like fertility, obviously mind, body, spirit, that has always been my approach to all healing. But I didn't necessarily come to it with this awareness about the men. It was very much, yeah, they should come too, but it wasn't like a enforced thing.
Right.
And my very first couple that I told you about, her partner worked an 80-hour work week. She almost didn't see him because he worked in this high fast-paced environment in San Francisco.
Wow.
And he literally, like, they had rooms for them to sleep in and showers for them to take when they wake up in the morning.
Wow.
So this man literally went to bed, woke up, went back to work, like he was already at work, and he literally 80 hours a week he was working. And I was like, listen, I do need to work with him. I don't think this level of stress is appropriate or good for this 34-year-old male. And she was like, okay, great. And he was very open to it. And he was like, I can only do so much with my diet because I barely come home. So there was some things to work on with their intimacy and their like connection and their ability to even spend time together. But the fifth or sixth client that I had was this couple. It was a 49-year-old woman. And right off the bat, I was like, I'm not sure we can do anything. You have no eggs left. There's nothing happening. You're like super close to menopause. You don't have any eggs in your ovaries. I don't know what we can do here. And I just want to get into an IVF clinic. And at the time, I was like, I know what I know, but I don't think that this is going to work. I'm okay to try it. We can see what happens. And her hormones rebalanced. She went back to having a regular cycle. And her eggs, she went from a 0.03 AMH to a 1.3 in a few months. And I was like, whoa, that's miraculous. I don't think that's supposed to happen, but I think it's pretty miraculous. And then at the very end of our time together, I was like, hey, so I still haven't seen your husband. What's his deal? And she tells me in conversation that he lives on candy bars. And I was
Oh.
like, what? And she's, oh, he's super healthy. He just like hikes and bikes and does all the exercise things and he's super fit. And his like go-to meals are M&M's, Snickers, Twix, whatever he can get his hands
Wow.
on. And I was just like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, you're kidding. All of the work that we've done is just, I could feel it just draining out of
Right.
me. It's like, oh, this is going to be so useless. This is not going anywhere. And they didn't end up having a child, even though they went to IVF because like
Right.
the male
Duh.
partner is
Yeah,
totally
this,
not on board.
yeah, the
And
sperm probably were not happy with that
oh my
picture.
God, oh my God, yeah. And actually, they had done his semen analysis and they were like, oh, his sperm looked great, which is the story with a lot of men. I find
Right.
that sperm don't actually change right from the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
So it was really unfortunate. I obviously was a young doctor that didn't know any better, but what I learned, like literally after that, I have not worked with anyone whose partner is not on board because that experience like just broke me because I
Mm-hmm.
was like, we did amazing, right? Like there was a possibility where there was
Right.
no possibility. And then the partner like never showed up, never got on board. And the conversation that I ended up having with him at the end is like a 3 hour conversation about how he didn't need to change his lifestyle, didn't need to do anything. If they had a kid, like he wasn't really on board, even
Right.
emotionally. I wasn't sure that he really wanted to have a child.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, that's like the differentiator between whether or not we should work with someone is, are they showing up? Are they
Right.
engaged? Are
Mm-hmm.
they really ready to transform their lives so that a child can be in their life in a
Mm-hmm.
healthful way?
Yeah, so important. And I love your, how you talked about that holistic approach and that mind, body, spirit, because it's so important. And that whole thing, that whole trilogy, like ebbs and flows through the relationship, whether that's male and female, two women, single, it has to
Yes,
be, everybody
yes.
has to be on
Yeah.
board and all the pieces have to fall into place, like you said. And if it's not, then it's like you can sometimes be doing the extra work when you might be set up for failure and you want to set yourself up for success as best as you can when it comes to fertility.
Yep, absolutely. Every part can really benefit from taking steps to get on the same page, to get
Mm-hmm.
on a track that's leading towards a healthy family
Mm-hmm.
unit, right?
Right.
And even I've seen couples that have a child already, and sometimes the child needs some healing therapy
Mm.
to like emotionally, spiritually be ready to embrace a baby sister or brother. There's so many dynamics that are happening that we don't necessarily think about or we
Mm-hmm.
don't necessarily like know exist. But for someone like me who really believes in this like holism from the perspective of there's so many things happening all at once, and how do we hold all of the pieces, and shifting this one little piece can really shift the whole puzzle, really makes for an environment that contributes to a whole health in all the ways.
Yeah, so important. And I love how you brought up that piece of all the children in the family too, because that's a huge component. Are they prepared to have another sibling come into their life? And that I myself am an only child, but I know that my friends that have multiple children, it can be a really strange dynamic if the child is not prepared and doesn't understand what's happening. It can
Yeah.
create a lot of anger if they're
Mhm.
not the center of attention anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So I'd love for us to take a step back and talk about, is there a diagnosis specifically for infertility? And do you look at labs in a different way from that holistic perspective?
Yes. Yeah, those are great questions. There is. The technical diagnosis of infertility basically says that if you have been unsuccessfully trying for 12 consecutive months under the age of 35, or 6 months over the age of 35 and are still not pregnant, you have infertility. And we have moved away from that word through all of our like outwardly facing social media to our inwardly facing client support. We are just anti-infertility because infertility doesn't mean anything. Just because it hasn't happened doesn't mean it will never happen.
Exactly.
But B, like labels have never supported anybody. Like labels in general don't support health and well-being, but especially with infertility, it's like women come in and say, oh, I'm infertile. And I'm like, no, you don't have a genetic issue or a physical anomaly, something up with your uterus that is going to make you unable to carry a child. It just means you haven't gotten pregnant yet. And they're like, oh, that's interesting. But the doctor
Nobody
said
ever
I'm
told me
infertile.
that before. Right. Yeah.
Right. And I'm like, yes. And here's how we're going to reframe that.
Right. Yes. Open your mind to the new terminology. It sounds like. What are some of those new words that you like to use with patients to help them to have a softening explanation, a more place of power when it comes to fertility in general?
I think we're reframing it to where we're supporting or optimizing our fertility, right? Like fertility is something that happens when the rest of the body is in its state of optimal. And I often find myself saying like the reproductive system will only function if everything else is clicked into place.
That's right.
But it's also the first thing to turn off because it's not needed for our one person survival.
Yeah.
I don't need my fertility to work in order to live and exist on this planet. And it's a natural inclination. It's like all of life wants to reproduce, whether it's a plant or a fish or anything on the planet that is living is reproducing. So there's a natural urge for humans to want to reproduce. But when it's not happening, I see it more as that not happening is a symptom of something deeper. It's not really the issue in and of itself. So it changes how we approach things. It changes how we think about whether or not something is going to work from our perspective is going to be based on, is this thing that you are experiencing, this difficulty conceiving, is it, if it's not the illness or disease in and of itself, if it's just a symptom, then what is it a symptom of?
Right.
So then we like start digging and trying to figure out what is the symptom? What is this?
What's the root cause?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. In terms of hormones, then there are 4 day 3 hormones that almost every reproductive doctor will consider important. And those are usually done on cycle day 3. And those are FSH, LH, estradiol, and AMH. And they all are doing different things. They're all telling us different things. And I have found that most of the time, women will come and say, oh, my doctor did all of those tests, but they said everything was fine. And then we look at those hormones and we're like, yeah, not so much. Yeah, not quite. And so when we see hormonal imbalances, there's a few patterns that we're looking at. We're looking to see if FSH and LH are in their optimal states, which is ideally below 7, even good enough if it's below 10. And then LH and FSH should really be in a 1-to-1 ratio. And when LH is significantly lower than FSH, it's usually a response to stress. And when LH is significantly higher than FSH, it's in response to something called PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome. We're really looking at the ratio between those two as well as the actual numbers. And then we're looking at estradiol. And estradiol is an interesting one because there is a Goldilocks zone. It's like optimal between 30 and 50. And there was a woman who I worked with last year whose estradiol was 9 when she came in.
Wow, 9.
9. And she's 36, 37, something like that. She's not anywhere near menopause. Her FSH was fine. I was like, oh, have you been on birth control for a long time?
We'll do it.
Really like restoring. Estrogen is not the enemy, right? I feel like sometimes you scroll through social media and it's all like anti-estrogen.
Right.
But in reality, like estrogen is extremely necessary to prepare your body properly, to make sure that you have ovulation happen when it should, and to be that like creating that fertile soil in the uterus to allow for that embryo to attach and grow when you do get pregnant. So important on so many levels.
Right.
But it's so often, oh, estrogen dominance, estrogen, too much estrogen, too much estrogen. And sure, that's an issue for some people, but not always.
Right.
So 30 to 50 is really that optimal. And then when it's above 50, by the time it gets to 70, 75, it's going to go and suppress FSH. So often FSH will look normal when estradiol is 150.
Right.
Like, yeah, it's going to look normal. But as soon as you start detoxing estrogen, that FSH is going right up.
Yep.
So a lot of women will come in with these really high estrogen numbers and have been told, oh, my hormones look great, everything looks great. And I'm like, yeah, no, because as soon as you start getting rid of estrogen, you're going to have that FSH swing up, and that is going to impact how well your body is going to produce the eggs that we're hoping to get to fertilize.
Yeah. And can you explain, just for our listeners, what the FSH and LH, just where people are like, what is she even talking about?
So the FSH is follicle stimulating hormone. The way that I explain it to my clients is it's the hormone from the brain going to the ovaries, telling the ovaries to develop follicles.
Right.
When that number is significantly high, so above 10, by the time it's creeping onto 20, we think of that as menopause. And then there's this like random external range where FSH is above 60, 80, 100. That's usually a stress response. So oftentimes they're like, wait, my FSH is super high. And I heard you say that FSH above 20 means that you're in menopause. And I'm like, yes, technically that's true. And when it's crazy high, it might just be a stress response. They're like, oh. So when it's a stress response, we can reverse it. When it's actually menopause, I don't reverse it. Some doctors might, but by the time someone's in menopause, I'm like, all right, your body's in menopause. I'm not messing with that.
And what's that definition of like when someone is technically in menopause?
Well, so I don't work a ton with menopause, but from the hormonal side, you'll see FSH being close to or above 20. They're not having regular menstrual cycles, and their AMH is extremely low. So we're going to get to AMH soon, but that's what we'll see on a hormone lab that will say, yeah, you're not the right fit for us. Some other practitioners might want to take that on. And I've heard some naturopathic doctors do estrogen and progesterone therapy. I'm like, not my thing.
Right. Yeah. I don't use that either.
Yeah.
Natural methods, the whole way.
Natural methods and natural like alignment and harmony.
Exactly.
So a lot of people get upset with me because they're like, we heard you saying that age is nothing but a number and we can have babies at any age. I'm like, yes, that's true until your body says no more.
Right. There is a limit when your body is done. Yeah. I think it's 12 months of having no cycle.
No cycle.
And then after that's like the technical diagnosis of being in menopause. So you can still have, if you're skipping cycles or having missed cycles, that doesn't necessarily mean you're in menopause. So you could still be in a stage where you could be fertile.
And sometimes that like extra fertile, like I've seen on labs, and I was talking to one of our colleagues about it. She works at a really big lab, and she's we see these like double, almost like dual ovulations sometimes when women are in perimenopause that gives them like 2 opportunities that they might be getting
Right. This is your last chance.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
fireworks. So that was the FSH. So that's the first signal. Usually that signal is starting around cycle day 3 or 4. And as the follicles grow, they're going to be building estrogen levels. So estrogen will actually start to rise around cycle day 5 and then peak around cycle day 12, 13, or 14. So when that estradiol peaks, that's when the ovaries communicate back to the brain like, hey, estradiol, so much estrogen.
Dun,
And
da, da,
the brain
da.
goes ding, and it releases LH, or luteinizing hormone,
Yep.
which causes the ovaries to release the follicle. Or then ovulation happens, the egg gets pushed out of the body, pushed out of the ovary.
I know what you meant.
Yeah, and it leaves behind the corpus luteum, the shell of that egg, which is going to produce progesterone for the next, ideally 12 to 15 days, which is considered our luteal phase.
Right.
So if that ovulation happened too late, that egg essentially sat in the ovaries for 2, 3, 4 extra days, that could mean that the quality of that egg already declined. Or the opposite, when you have high estrogen levels, sometimes that egg is kicked out of the ovary before it's ready. It's like a little bird that whose shell
Left the
cracked
nest. Right.
before it was ready to fly. And unfortunately, those scenarios, those outskirt scenarios, tend to not go well because they have impacted egg quality.
So you have to have everything primed, it sounds like.
Exactly. Exactly.
Exactly.
Yep. And then the other thing is the progesterone. I don't require progesterone to be tested before we start working with someone, but we will usually test it while working with them. And ideally, you want to test progesterone 7 days after ovulation. So if your ovulation is happening cycle day 10, you want to test progesterone on cycle day 17. If it's happening on cycle day 14, then you're going to test it on cycle day 21. So there's a pretty big range of when you should test progesterone, which is why we don't even get into it. We're like, you can probably not know and test it on the wrong day, and it's not going to help
Let's
us.
just wait on that one.
Yes. So we just wait till later. And progesterone is optimally over 15 is usually, to me, like a semi indicator that we have good egg quality.
Right.
There's not really any great ways to test egg quality because we just don't know. We don't have any tests for this, right?
Right.
So
not at this moment in time. We do not have a test for that.
Right. At this moment in time. Hopefully soon it's coming.
Yeah.
But we really so a lot of women will say, oh, my AMH is good. That means I have good eggs. I'm like, no, that means you have good egg numbers, but that doesn't mean anything about egg quality. We can get 50 eggs, but if none of them are any good, they're not going to fertilize.
Yeah, that's not going to work.
Yeah, exactly. So we really want to focus on promoting egg quality to the point where your progesterone levels can be sustained through your entire luteal phase, and then you have a nice healthy at least 12, but ideally 14 or 15 days of a luteal phase. That's like that all of the days post-ovulation. When the progesterone is fluctuating or wavering, that's usually not a good sign. When progesterone levels drop off, it's usually not a good sign.
Right. Oops.
When we have a short luteal phase, that's 8 or 10 days, usually not a good sign about progesterone. So all of those situations really point to the need to support progesterone levels and simultaneously egg quality, which is what's going to support progesterone production.
That was great. That was such a wonderful explanation. Thank you. Because I think that some people just don't understand, especially when they're going in to see the doctor and they're getting this lab work. They're like, I don't even know what any of this means. And I think that's a good part of empowerment for our patients, is explaining this is actually like what this is about, where it's coming from, how it's communicating to your body, what it's telling the ovaries to do. And as women, that's so empowering to have that information.
Absolutely. Yeah. To know what's happening in our bodies. And even last year, I was going to do this challenge called the Luteal Love Challenge. And I like put it out to a bunch of women that are in my mastermind. And they were like, what's luteal?
Oh boy.
It's like, oh my God, what? You guys don't know what luteal is? That means
like,
nobody knows what luteal is.
Right, exactly. It's so true. Yeah, I think it's people just don't understand their phases. And I think back when I was in, how old was I? I think I was in sixth grade, and it's like the reproduction class or the sex education, I should say.
Right.
And it was so basic, and they didn't talk about anything about women's health or what was. And there was guys in the class too, which I think is totally not appropriate now. I'm like, because women, girls, you don't feel comfortable asking a question if there's a guy next to you.
Right. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Like I can't wait for the day. And I would I've said this to many doctors. I would be happy to help create this somehow where we create some sort of curriculum for young women to really learn about their bodies, their cycles, and their hormones before they get to the point of even having a cycle. Like by the time you have a period, if you don't know what that is, if you don't know what's happening in your body, then it just becomes, oh crap, like I have to deal with this stuff. Versus if what's coming, if you know that your cycle is like putting you in a place where you could be fertile and that it's a sign of your fertility every single month, then you're less likely to shut it down and take a injection that's going to only give you 3 periods a year, or yes, the birth control pill, whatever it is. Like we have found in our society like ways to just push it off to the side where I don't want to have to deal with this. I don't want to be in pain. I don't want to deal with the irregularity of it. I don't want to deal with any of it. So let me shut it off and not until we try to get pregnant. And then we're like, wait, why isn't it happening? I was told in sex ed that it was going to happen the very first time I had sex. So what's up?
Yeah, I think that would be a great idea to have that as part of the education programs. And it could be happening in some schools now, but I think it's so needed. I love what you said too about having it start earlier before young women have cycles, but now they're having them so early too. And I think that's a whole nother conversation too, which we can go into a little bit if we have time. We'll probably could talk for hours, but I do want to keep us on track. Let's see. Let's talk about toxins and fertility, because I think that's an important piece. And I love your thoughts about the environment, how it's playing a role on fertility in general, fertility optimization, and then do you have a detox kind of program where you recommend that patients, either if they're starting to get pregnant, they're even thinking about it, what does that look like? And then, or if they're trying that type of question.
Yeah, absolutely. So detox or toxins in our environment are our new reality in so many ways, right? Like they're not going anywhere. We get rid of one toxin, we come out with a more potent, more reproductive harming toxin. So I don't think that our approach to this is really, we need to get rid of all the toxins in our environment
in the world.
They're not going anywhere. Not happening. So our approach with it is it's really about our own awareness and how we can protect our own selves and our own families from the toxins, because it's going to be impossible to do otherwise. And hopefully consciousness will get to a point where we decide, oh, this is actually not great for our environment, our bodies, our health. But one day
we're getting there. People are having more awareness. What are some of the main toxins that you see in your practice that are affecting the female hormones in regards to fertility optimization?
Yeah. So I think in terms of hormones, we have a few. BPA, phthalates, and glyphosates are probably my top ones for fertility. And then there's a whole list. So if anybody wants it, you can hit me up on Instagram and I'm happy to send it to you. It's like at some point I pulled all of the research papers that were for men's health and women's health. So there's a lot of data. they actually track men's health more than women's markers because it's just easier, right?
Right.
Like our hormones are changing all the time.
Right.
It's hard to say. But if you're like, hey, we exposed men to BPA for 6 weeks and here's what happened in their sperm counts, it's really obvious and it's really apparent what's happening.
And testosterone levels too.
Yeah. They're all of the toxins that are floating around in our environment are coming from really specific things. So if we can eliminate exposure, that's the first level of detox, to get rid of where these things are coming in from. And for women, a lot of it is health and beauty aids.
So many.
Oh my God.
I think there was a study done that showed like the most common, like for a woman, I think it's like 20 products that we use, different products every day. And I'm like,
yep.
Oh, that's a lot.
It's not even that. The last that I read was like 168 toxins being applied on top of our skin before we leave the house in the morning.
Oh my God.
The average woman puts on 168 chemicals.
That's way too many. That's right there is the real key reason, listeners, to look at your ingredients in the label. And if you don't know, hit both of us up. We can help you. And I think you have a toxin-free handout, don't you? And I'll make sure I put the link in so everyone can find that, because that's a great one.
Yeah, I call it the Divas Detox Guide because I myself like love makeup. So when I was like going through this process and supporting, like I got into it a little prior to that because my mom had cancer, and helping support her, I was like, oh my God, all this stuff.
Right.
Like, how do we get rid of all this stuff? And she used to be an Avon lady. So
whoa.
Yeah, we had a lot of it. So we like literally, I have been on this hunt of how do we find like clean beauty products that are not going to impact negatively our health. And then at some point I just put it all in a document and was like, here you go. Like, I don't have an affiliation with any of these companies. Have at it.
Right. Here's and because there are a lot of different companies out there. And I noticed that when I've been shopping recently, like even at Target, they're having a lot more beauty products, but you want to be careful. Even if it says like natural or something like that, does not mean, because it's not controlled by the FDA, that it is a particular product that's not going to have toxins in it. So you need to know the toxins and then be able to look for them when you're reading the label.
Exactly. And it's really about us being educated enough to be looking at a label and saying, oh no, that doesn't sound right.
Oh yeah. No.
And there are great apps these days. So I think it's, what is it called? Like Clean...
EWG.org has
is a good resource. Skin Deep. Yes. There's a few of these apps that you can like scan a barcode and it'll tell you how clean it is. So you don't necessarily have to know how to read ingredients.
Right.
But
which could be complicated.
If you don't want to be walking around with your phone and like scanning barcodes, I feel like it's easier to look at a label and be like, that's not going to fly. So really, like, cleaning out the beauty products is a great way to get rid of exposure. The next level is the household cleaning products. I love, like, my partner, when I met him, he was not super he was into health, but he wasn't necessarily like aware of all the chemicals and stuff. And now, like, we just hired a new house cleaner, and he's, can you tell her to use clean stuff? Because, oh my God, I have a headache.
Oh yeah. I have a little bucket in my, my house when my cleaner comes, everything's in there. Cause I don't want to have any outside products come in, like bleach or Lysol, all that stuff. And I'm like, okay, this is what you can use. Please don't use anything else.
Yes, exactly. So that's exactly, she was like, yeah, I'm happy to use your stuff if you want. Like, here's the bucket. That, like, household cleaning supplies are really great other plates to clean out your exposure. What's interesting is air pollution, which is harder to clear, but I found a few different studies that say that women who live inside of cities that have high air pollution have lower chances of getting pregnant. And that's interesting because it's super hard to control, but B, like, outside of air filters, there isn't a lot that we can do about it. But so getting air filters in your house, if that's available to you, trying not to buy brand new furniture, which I'm saying this and just literally I'm looking at all the new furniture that we bought because we moved to a new house. But like we're running air filters around every single thing that we buy so that we're not like breathing this stuff in. Leave your windows open when you have new furniture, right? Like use the things that you can use to limit your exposure in whatever way.
It's a big one because they use formaldehyde
absolutely.
in both of those things.
Yeah. And then water supply.
Water.
The drinking water is a big one. And I feel like my clients, and maybe you see this too, is my clients are smart, badass women.
Exactly,
like they're coming in like, we have all this research and I read the study too. And so I can have like doctor level conversations with most of them. But what's interesting is what we do with the information. And some of them will come and say, oh yeah, I know all about how toxic our water is. And then they're drinking plastic water bottled water.
Oh, the worst.
And I'm like,
don't do that.
No.
That's the worst one. Right. Not only is it bad for us, but it's so bad for
the environment.
So bad.
So get rid of your plastic water bottles. Do not drink plastic water bottle water. If you do not have the ability to get a water filter in your home or
whatever,
on top of your sink, then go to Whole Foods with a glass jug, fill it up, bring it home, put your water into metal or glass. Do not use plastic bottles.
No,
that is probably the biggest exposure to BPA, even Nalgene, which claims BPA free. So we got to be careful with all the BPA free products now because they're, like I said, they're using more toxic crap. So if it says BPA free, but it still feels like plastic, they've replaced it with BPS, which is greater reproductive toxin than BPA.
It should be called BS because that's what they're trying to do to us.
And then so we talked about water, plastic, removing plastic from our food storage.
Gosh, right. That's really a big one.
Just like clearing out as much as you can. Pots and pans, I feel like also are high in phthalates and I want to say like polycarbons of some sort.
With the non-stick pots are so bad.
Yeah. And this is one that I debate with my husband a lot because he's always like, can't we just get nonstick? And I'm like, no, we can't. And but it's not scratched until we scratch it. And I'm like, it's going to get scratched.
Right.
It's inevitable. There's no way this is not getting scratched. And then it's going to go into our food and I'm going to feel bad throwing the pot away. And
the bad cycle begins, right? Yes. So just buy the good stuff from the beginning. And there's lots of companies now, I think, not that I'm promoting, but I think Caraway is the name. There's companies out there that are making eco-friendly products, just buying a copper pot, something that's healthy and not toxic, especially the nonstick pans are not good.
Yep. And I've got them all linked in our ebook. So you can just go to that section. You're like, okay, I'm ready to replace all my pots and pans. Click, you'll have access to all of it. And then the last thing, which I love talking about because this one was a mind-blowing thing to me, which is glyphosate. And glyphosate is Roundup. It's sprayed on non-organic food. So most of us are eating organic. At least most of my clients are.
Right. Trying to as much as we can.
As much as possible. It's if you're doing it as much as possible, you're fine. But glyphosate is also primarily used on cotton and
the clothes that we wear,
the clothes that we wear and the tampons and pads that we put into our vaginas. So what glyphosate is doing to the gut when we eat it is non-organic food kind of depletes our microbiome diversity. So it kills off the good stuff, makes more room for the not so good stuff. So that's what's happening on a gut level. However, with all the research that's coming out about the vaginal, cervical, and uterine microbiome and how that affects fertility, guess what? Glyphosate is doing the same crap to our reproductive area.
Yeah.
So it's really like we have the research available, but we don't necessarily make the links to what is happening. Reproductive toxins, I put glyphosate at the top. I've had patients come back and say, I have 50 to 80% less menstrual pain within one cycle of stopping to use those products.
So amazing, right?
It's incredible. I'm like, so all these women that are out there that are suffering in pain, that we have normalized menstrual pain as a thing. You go to your doctor, you're like, oh, totally normal.
Right. Yeah.
Normal
Everybody has it.
And to me, I'm like, common doesn't mean normal.
Exactly.
Common just means we are doing something massively incorrectly.
Right.
You do not need to be in pain to have a menstrual cycle. You shouldn't need to have that experience every single month.
Yeah. Days of not being able to get out of bed or heavy bleeding where you can't go to work. That's not normal.
Yeah. Yeah. And I wish I had this knowledge when I was 15. Like I had the worst menstrual cycles in the world. It probably would have been eliminated if someone just gave me a menstrual cup or cloth pads or whatever,
something like different,
the variety of alternatives that were available.
Right. Yes. There's a lot more things now that are available. And when you're talking about using tampons and different pads too, they have plastic. So it's another aspect of how we're affecting ourselves and the environment. Not all of them come that way, but some of them do. So that's important to look at the packaging too.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's how they're like keeping your panties clean is like the
That's
plastic.
right. So that's their thought process there.
Plastic will do it.
Right. Yes, exactly. Okay. So it sounds like that there are a lot of different toxins in our environment, and being aware as much as we can, being conscious of what we're using can help us to have a more optimize our fertility in a much better way. And do you use a detox when patients are coming in to help them? How's important to clean that out? We're in this environment all the time where our toxins are affecting us. Do we need to do some kind of cleanse? And is it important to do that? How frequently, if we're really trying to optimize fertility?
Yeah. Yeah, I really do believe in detox. I think that what we just talked about, you can take it and run with it. You can get my Divas Detox Guide for free. You can do this all on your own. Like, you don't need to pay me a dime to do this.
But you want to come and see Dr. Aumatma. She's amazing.
But if people are working with us, then we have a more intensive detox that we'll put people on. I'm very much a proponent for individualized care. So our detox programs are based on your body type. I studied Ayurveda in India for a while. And what I brought back from it was really like how our body types really make for unique experiences with everything from like how we experience stress to how much sleep we should get to how to detox. Yeah. So we'll customize the detox based on the body type, and it is generally more intensive, but we're doing it right in the beginning of our work together. You don't want to detox too close to trying, because there's evidence that those toxins can still be floating around in your system. You're passing it on to the baby and contributing to the 300 plus toxins that babies have in their cord blood at birth.
I know, isn't that crazy? That study just blows my mind. Yes. I'm just like, wow, really? Can be that many toxins in the umbilical cord? Mm-hmm. That alone should be a sign that we are in a toxic environment. And women out there, you need to clean yourselves up.
Yes. So to be able to do it before you get pregnant, but like way before you get pregnant, not hey, I'm gonna detox and then try to get pregnant. And
tomorrow.
I was talking to one of my awesome like collaborators. We've done lots of like business things together, and she's, oh my God, I've been in the health industry for 20 years, and the number of times that I've recommended my friends to do detoxes because they were trying to get pregnant is really high. And I'm super embarrassed to admit that this is what I was telling people before I met you.
Thanks for taking my advice, and we can help the people moving forward.
I'm like, stop telling them to do a detox. So don't do work with someone if you're going to do a detox prior to pregnancy, because
super important.
You really don't want to willy-nilly it. You don't want to pick up some detox kit off of the shelf because you don't know what's in it. You don't know what it's going to do.
Have fillers
you
and crap.
Yeah. You don't actually know if it's going to get you closer to your outcome or further away. And just because it's a detox doesn't mean you're automatically going to be helpful.
That's true. It really is important to work with a professional when you're doing, especially when it comes to fertility optimization, because you have a specific goal in mind. And maybe you did a heavy metals test and you saw you have heavy metals in the system. There's specific things you have to do to get those to move out of the system. You don't want them floating in your bloodstream.
Like, oh, I did this detox and now I have heavy metal toxicity. So yes, detoxing is important. It can be super helpful. Most of the people that we work with finish our detox program and they're like, oh my God, I feel amazing. Inflammation is gone. The energy is higher. I feel better. I lost a bunch of weight if I needed to lose weight. So yeah, you can have amazing outcomes from a detox, but it really needs to be the right one for you and appropriate for your fertility. So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you don't want to, the other thing is really when you're trying to conceive or you're on the path to motherhood or parenthood, the last thing you want to do is pull out all of your nutrients while you're detoxing, right? Yeah, like you want to make sure that you're flooding your body with nutrient more than you're like kicking things out of your body, or you're simultaneously doing that within some container that is able to support you in it.
Yeah, super important. I love that. Yeah, thanks for talking about that so much, because it's such a important piece. And I think that learning more and more about how the environment is affecting us, and not only just with regular health and regular health optimization, but especially when it comes to fertility optimization and having the prime vessel for the baby. I know that we could talk forever, but I want to be really aware of our time together. So there's a couple highlights I want to make sure we get to. So one, can you talk about your book, The Fertility Secrets, what your doctor didn't tell you about baby making, and how our listeners can grab a copy of that?
Absolutely. So that book really goes through our entire process and how we're working with people and the things to pay attention to and what's important for fertility. And I feel, and reviewers have said, that it's written in a way that it's a super easy read, right? Yeah. This is not a dense book that you're going to sit down and spend days and months and years reading. Like, you should be able to get through this in 2 days. And most of the reviews have said, oh, all the stories in there were so helpful and so inspiring and just so relatable, because this is our average client. They're like super awesome people that are struggling with this really awesome thing that they want to do. The book is available on Amazon, Fertility Secrets, What Your Doctor Didn't Tell You About Baby Making. And it has a whole set of gifts that go with the book that we're giving to you just for listening to this podcast. So you'll get all the book gifts as if you like go to the link and download.
Awesome. Okay, sweet. We will make sure that we put all of those wonderful links into the show notes. So if you're listening in and you're wondering how you can get Dr. Aumatma's book and as well the freebies, make sure you check the show notes. And then one last question as we're wrapping up today. And you've already answered this in one thing that you said, but if you had an unlimited budget, what would you do right now to make the biggest impact on the planet?
If I personally had all the money in the world.
Yes, if you had all the money in the world.
I would probably take all of the toxins and replace them with non-toxic things.
Yay! That's a great one. I love that. And there's so many people that have the same views. It's one of my favorite questions to ask, because one of my ideas is to put them all together because they're so similar. We, especially as health practitioners and love of the planet and love of the health, we have these goals of like either cleaning up the planet or having great food or having centers where people can come and have alternative health. And yes, we can do all that. Let's have our vision come together.
Yes. Yeah.
Thanks again. Tell our listeners how everybody can find you.
I'm on Instagram, Holistic Fertility Expert. There's underscores in the middle of those words. Or you can go to our website, holisticfertilityinstitute.com.
Awesome. Great. Thanks again for joining us. I loved our conversation and I can't wait to share it with the world.
Likewise. Thank you so much.